My sister-in-law accused me of being a predator. My wife believed her without question. Here's how I proved my innocence and lost my marriage anyway. My wife's little sister said to our entire family, "Ed has been touching me and saying inappropriate things for months. I can't take it anymore." That was Sunday night. By Monday morning, I was being served with divorce papers and a restraining order. I'm still trying to process what the hell just happened to my life. I'm Ed, 32, civil engineer working on city infrastructure projects in the Houston area. My wife Melissa, 31, is a high school guidance counselor. We've been married 3 years, owned our house for about a year and a half. Things weren't perfect, but they were good. Or so I thought. 8 months ago, Melissa's youngest sister Haley, 24, moved into our spare bedroom. Temporarily, we were told. She dropped out of a nursing program in another state, supposedly due to stress and health complications. Haley was born with a congenital heart condition and nearly died as a baby, so the family has always treated her like she's made of glass. Any boundary, any expectation, any request for her to contribute somehow becomes, "You don't understand what she's been through." The first month was fine. Then it became 2 months, then 4, then 8. Haley never looked for work, never re-enrolled in school, never contributed $1 to groceries, utilities, or rent. Instead, she redecorated our living room without asking, took over my home office to film TikToks about her healing journey, and treated our house like a spa resort. Every time I suggested to Melissa that maybe we should discuss a timeline for Haley to get her own place, I got the same response. "She almost died when she was little, Ed. She's recovering. Family supports family." But it was more than just the financial thing. There were these weird moments I couldn't quite put my finger on. When Melissa was home, Haley was all sunshine and sisterly bonding. But when Melissa went to work, different story. Haley would suddenly be in whatever room I was in, making coffee right when I was having breakfast, turning on the TV loud in the living room when I was trying to work from home, walking past my office door 6, 7 times in an hour. Nothing I could point to and say, "This is inappropriate." Just this constant presence that made me uncomfortable in my own house. I'm not an idiot. I started making sure I was never alone with her. If Melissa was gone and Haley came into a room, I left. I kept my office door open. I started working more hours at the actual office just to avoid being home. A few weeks ago, I made the mistake of telling Melissa we needed to have a serious conversation about Haley's living situation. That maybe it was time to set some boundaries, some expectations. Maybe talk about her getting a part-time job or looking into her own apartment. Melissa shut me down hard. "Why are you always trying to push my sister out? What did she ever do to you?" I didn't have a good answer. What was I supposed to say? "Your sister makes me uncomfortable by existing in the same space." It sounded paranoid even in my own head. Sunday night, we went to dinner at Melissa's parents' house. The whole family was there. Her parents, her older sister Jenna and Jenna's husband, Melissa, me, and Haley. I made the mistake of mentioning casually that Haley might benefit from some structure. Maybe looking into part-time work or taking an online class. Just something to help her feel more independent. The table went quiet. Then Haley started crying, not just tearing up, full-on sobbing, hyperventilating. Her mom rushed over to her asking what was wrong, and then Haley said it. "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending everything's fine." Everyone stared at her. I genuinely had no idea what was coming. "Ed has been making me uncomfortable for months. He says things. He touches me. He corners me when Melissa isn't home. I've been too scared to say anything because I didn't think anyone would believe me." The room exploded. Melissa's father stood up and called me a predator. Her mother started crying, saying they'd trusted me. Jenna called me a sick man who preys on vulnerable women. I tried to defend myself. I said none of that was true. I said I'd specifically been avoiding being alone with Haley for weeks. I said this was insane, but Haley had details. She said I'd told her she was more mature than Melissa, that I'd brushed against her in the kitchen and laundry room, that I'd been messaging her inappropriate things on Instagram, but she deleted them out of shame. When I tried to deny it, she even cried harder and said, I knew no one would believe me because I'm the one with mental health issues. He counted on that. I looked at Melissa, my wife, the woman I'd built a life with. She was looking at me like she'd never seen me before, saying absolutely nothing. Her dad told me to get the hell out of his house. I left, got into my car and drove away. I don't even remember where. I ended up in some grocery store parking lot about 15 minutes away, just sitting there with the engine running, shaking, trying to understand what had just happened. When I finally made it home, Melissa was already there. She'd beat me back. She told me to pack a bag and stay at my parents' until we figured this out. I asked her if she actually believed this. She said she didn't know what to believe, but her sister was crying and scared, and I needed to leave. I'm writing this from my childhood bedroom at my parents' house. It's been 2 days. My phone has been blowing up with texts from Melissa's family calling me every name you can imagine. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if my marriage is over. I don't know how to prove something didn't happen. All I know is that the woman I love believes I'm a predator, and her entire family thinks I'm a monster. How do you fight back against a lie when everyone's already made up their minds? Update 1, posted 2 weeks later. I didn't expect this post to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who told me to lawyer up immediately. I did. Best advice I've gotten through this nightmare. The day after I posted, Melissa showed up at my parents' house. My mom answered the door. I heard voices, then my mom calling my name with this tight, worried tone. Melissa was standing in the foyer with a manila envelope in her hands. She looked like she hadn't slept. Neither had I. Can we talk? She asked. We went out to the front porch. She didn't sit down. I need you to sign these, she said, holding out the envelope. I opened it. Divorce papers. No fault filing, but with a narrative about inappropriate conduct and irreconcilable differences. And a petition for a restraining order on behalf of Haley, claiming I've been harassing her, stalking her, making her fear for her safety. You heard it right. A restraining order. Melissa, don't. Her voice cracked. I don't want to hear it, Ed. I can't. I can't do this right now. You haven't asked me once if any of this is true. Haley wouldn't lie about something like this. She gave specific dates, specific times, details, Ed. And I can prove I wasn't there for half of them if you just. She held up her hand. I can't listen to you explain away what my sister went through. I just can't. So that's it. 8 years together and you won't even hear my side. She was crying now. My sister is terrified. She's traumatized, and you're asking me to choose between you and her. I'm asking you to look at the evidence before you destroy our marriage. You destroyed it when you. She stopped, took a breath. I need you to stay away from our house, stay away from Haley, stay away from my family. The restraining order hearing is in 3 weeks. You'll get the official notice from the court. She turned to leave. Melissa. She stopped but didn't turn around. I have never touched your sister. I have never said anything inappropriate to her. And when this is over, when you see the proof, I need you to remember that you didn't believe me. She walked to her car without looking back. I sat on my parents' porch reading through the restraining order application with my hands shaking. It listed specific dates and times when Haley claimed I did these things. Here's what made my blood run cold. 3 of those dates I wasn't even in Houston. I was on project sites in Louisiana. I had plane tickets, hotel receipts, email logs with timestamps, GPS data from my work truck. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't he said, she said. This was a coordinated lie, and my wife was backing it without asking me a single question. I called a family law specialist named Ramirez who came highly recommended. He sat me down and said something I'll never forget. You need to stop trying to prove you're innocent by yelling about it. Let the data speak. People who play the victim card professionally always leave a pattern. He was right. We started pulling everything: work schedules, credit card statements, GPS logs from my work vehicle, emails, text message records, security camera footage from my office building, hotel receipts, boarding passes. For every single incident Haley listed in her restraining order petition, I had documentation proving I was somewhere else entirely. But here's what Ramirez told me to do next. We need to establish pattern. This probably isn't her first time. So we started digging into Haley's history. I even reached out to a private investigator. What we found was chilling. In the last 3 years, Haley had worked 4 different jobs. Each one ended with her quitting and claiming workplace harassment, a creepy manager, a coworker who wouldn't leave her alone, an unsafe work environment. She'd attended 2 different community colleges and started that nursing program. Each time she dropped out with similar stories, a professor who made her uncomfortable, an academic advisor who was gaslighting her. I pulled old family photos from Melissa's Facebook. Haley had been in and out of the family home, other relatives' houses, treatment centers, wellness retreats. The family had spent over $60,000 on her various recoveries over the years. Meanwhile, I had no history, no complaints, no issues at work, clean background, stable employment for 8 years with the same company, character references from colleagues, supervisors, project managers. The evidence was overwhelming, but it felt like screaming into a void. Melissa wouldn't take my calls. Her family had completely cut me off. Then I got a call I wasn't expecting. Jenna, Melissa's older sister, she asked if we could meet for coffee. I brought Ramirez with me on his advice. She came alone. Jenna looked exhausted. She ordered her coffee and then just sat there for a minute before saying, "Haley did this before." I waited. 2 years ago, Haley stayed with us for about 4 months. She started making these comments about my husband. Nothing direct, just little things. How he made her feel uncomfortable. How he'd look at her weird. How he'd find excuses to be alone with her. My husband confronted her directly, told her he was never alone with her and she needed to stop insinuating things. She cried to Melissa and our parents that he was cold and dismissive of victims. Jenna took a shaky breath. I didn't want to believe it then. I thought maybe she was just awkward or misreading things, but now, with you, the exact same pattern, the same language. My husband and I almost divorced over it, Jenna said. He felt like I chose her over him. I kind of did. Because she almost died when we were kids, and I've spent my whole life making sure she feels safe and protected. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Ed. I should have seen this." That meeting changed everything. With Jenna's testimony, the PI's findings, and my mountain of evidence, Ramirez filed a response to the restraining order that basically called bullshit on the entire thing. We requested an evidentiary hearing. We also started preparing a response to the divorce filing. Ramirez advised me to fight for the house, for my share of assets, for everything. Don't let her walk away thinking this was consequence-free for either of them. The hearing is in 2 weeks. Melissa still hasn't reached out, not once, not to ask for my side, not to question the timeline. Nothing. I'm not the same person I was 2 weeks ago. I'm angrier, I'm more focused. And I'm done trying to convince anyone I'm innocent. The evidence will do that for me. Update 2, posted 1 month after Update 1, you all called it. Every single one of you who said the family will try to rug sweep this was right. Last week, Melissa's parents, both sisters, and Haley showed up at my parents' house unannounced. They wanted to have a family meeting to resolve this before it goes any further. My dad almost didn't let them in, but I wanted this. I wanted to face them. We sat in my parents' living room like it was some kind of informal trial. Melissa's father immediately started with the "we're all family here" speech. Her mother kept saying she just wanted peace. Jenna looked uncomfortable as hell. Haley sat in the corner, looking small and fragile, occasionally dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Melissa finally spoke. "Ed, if you just apologize and agree to get help, we can work through this. I don't want a divorce. I want my husband back, but you need to take accountability." I just stared at her. Accountability for what exactly? For making Haley feel unsafe, for whatever happened that made her feel this way. Nothing happened, Melissa, that's the point. Haley's voice came out small and broken. "Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy me?" That's when I opened my laptop. I'd prepared for this. Ramirez had helped me compile everything into a presentation. Dates, times, evidence. First slide, November 3rd. Haley's statement claims I cornered her in the kitchen at 8 p.m. and made inappropriate comments. I pulled up my boarding pass. I was in Baton Rouge. I showed them my hotel receipt. The timestamp on work emails I'd sent from Louisiana that night. GPS data from my rental car. I wasn't in Houston. I wasn't even in Texas. Melissa's mom. Maybe she got the date wrong. Second slide. November 17th. Haley claims I held her hand too long when passing her something in the laundry room at 3 p.m. I showed them my calendar. At 3 p.m. that day, I was in a meeting with a city building inspector. I pulled up the inspector's body cam footage that my company had obtained through official channels. There I was, in a hard hat on a construction site, time stamped. The room had gone very quiet. Third slide, December 2nd. Haley claims I sent her inappropriate DMs on Instagram. I pulled up my Instagram data download. Every message I'd ever sent was logged. I showed them my message history with Haley, 3 messages total. One from 2 years ago saying happy birthday. One asking if she wanted anything from the store when I was going grocery shopping. One sending her a meme Melissa had told me to share. That was it. Melissa was staring at Haley now. Haley, you said those dates specifically, in the restraining order. How did you get them wrong? Haley's voice got defensive. I don't remember the exact dates. I just remember how he made me feel. The emotions are real even if the timeline is fuzzy. The timeline isn't fuzzy, I said. It's impossible. Then I moved to the next section. I pulled up Haley's work history, every job she'd quit, every school she dropped out of. I showed them the private investigator's report with statements from 2 former employers and 1 former roommate. One manager said Haley had filed a harassment complaint after receiving a written warning for chronic lateness and phone use during shifts. The complaint was investigated and dismissed. A roommate from community college said Haley had tried to convince her that her boyfriend was hitting on Haley, causing them to break up. The roommate later found out Haley had been lying and cut contact. A college had a harassment complaint filed by Haley against a professor, then withdrawn mid-investigation when Haley suddenly dropped out. Melissa's mother looked pale. Haley, what is this? But I wasn't done. I pulled out the credit card statements, our joint credit card, the one Melissa and I shared, 8 months of charges I hadn't made, food delivery to our address when I was at work, clothing, high-end cosmetics, app subscriptions I'd never heard of, hotel spa treatments, total just over $10,000. I slid the statements across the coffee table to Melissa. Every single one of these charges was made while I was at work or out of state. Every delivery address is our house. Every purchase happened while Haley was supposedly there alone, recovering and healing. Melissa was shaking as she looked through the statements. Haley. Why are all these charges to our address? Haley stood up and her whole demeanor changed. The small, fragile victim disappeared. I was stressed. I needed self-care. I was going to pay you back. With what money? I asked. You haven't worked in 8 months. You're using money to control the narrative. This is financial abuse. Jenna spoke up then, her voice quiet but firm. Haley, you told me and Mom and Dad 3 different stories about why you needed emergency money last month. I gave you $800. Mom gave you $500. Dad gave you $600 for the same emergency. Melissa's father looked like he'd been punched. You took money from all of us for the same thing. The room was completely silent except for Haley's breathing getting faster. Then she said the thing that broke whatever sympathy might have remained. Fine, so I spent some money, so I got some dates mixed up. That doesn't mean he didn't make me uncomfortable. You're all victim blaming me. You're choosing him over me. She pointed at me like I was something diseased. He's a master manipulator. He's turning you all against me. I'm the victim here. If you don't believe me, I'll hurt myself. Is that what you want? Melissa stood up. I'd never seen her look like that. Haley, stop. No, you always do this. You always side with everyone else. I almost died and you don't even care. None of you care. Melissa's voice was ice. Get out of my sight. What? Get out. Get your things from our house. I'll have them on the lawn by tomorrow. Get out. Haley looked around the room for support. Her parents looked devastated. Jenna was crying but said nothing. Haley grabbed her purse and ran out. We heard her car peel out of the driveway. The family sat there in ruins. Melissa's mother was sobbing. Her father just stared at the floor. After they left, Melissa asked if we could talk. Alone. We sat in my parents' backyard for 2 hours. She cried. She apologized. She said she'd known something was wrong with Haley for years but couldn't bring herself to see it. She almost died when we were babies, Melissa said. After that, everything Haley did, every problem she had, it was always she's been through so much. We couldn't set boundaries. We couldn't say no. Because what if the stress triggered her heart condition? What if we caused her to relapse? She looked at me. I chose my sister over you without even asking your side. I let her move into our home, spend our money, destroy our marriage, and I didn't ask you a single question. I didn't know what to say. She asked, "Is there any way we can fix this?" I was honest. "I don't know, Melissa. Even if we can, I don't know if I want to. We're still going through with the divorce, but it's different now. Amicable, if you can call it that. She's not fighting me on the house or assets. She's moving into an apartment closer to her school. The restraining order hearing is next week. With the evidence we have, Ramirez says it'll be dismissed easily, but the damage is done. My in-laws know. My co-workers heard rumors. My neighbors saw me get kicked out of my own house. I proved I'm innocent, but I'm still losing my marriage. Final update posted 3 months after update 2. This will be my last update. I need to close this chapter and move on. The restraining order was dismissed. Haley didn't even show up to the hearing. With the evidence we presented, the judge called it a waste of the court's time and dismissed it with prejudice. But here's where things took a turn I didn't expect. About 3 weeks after the dismissal, I got a call from the district attorney's office. Turns out, when you file a false restraining order and commit credit card fraud to the tune of $10,000, banks and courts start paying attention. The credit card company had flagged the suspicious activity months ago, but assumed it was friendly fraud between spouses. Once we provided evidence that Haley had been using our joint card without authorization and forging signatures on delivery receipts, they forwarded everything to the DA. Haley is being charged with identity theft and credit card fraud, both felonies. Her lawyer initially tried to work out a deal where she'd go to therapy and pay restitution, but Haley refused to admit wrongdoing. She gave an interview to her lawyer claiming she was the real victim and that I was using my male privilege and financial resources to destroy her. That interview made it to the prosecutor's desk. He was not amused. He already has statements from 3 previous targets of Haley's false accusations, plus the mountain of evidence from my case. She took a plea deal last week. Felony record, 5 years probation, restitution of $10,000 plus court costs, mandatory therapy. Any violation of probation sends her to jail. Her parents are devastated but finally seem to understand the scope of what she's been doing. They've cut her off financially and told her she needs to figure out her own life now. Melissa and I finalized our divorce last month. We're civil. We occasionally text about practical things. She's in therapy, working through a lot of guilt and family dynamic stuff. She cried during the final mediation. I didn't. I think I'd already cried myself out. I kept the house. I've been slowly making it mine again. I converted Haley's old room into a proper home office, painted over the living room colors she changed. Work is good. My company was incredibly supportive through everything. HR investigated the rumors, found them baseless, and made it clear I was a valued employee. A few neighbors who'd been gossiping about me have quietly apologized. I've also started volunteering with a legal aid organization that helps men who have been falsely accused. Turns out there are a lot of us and most don't have the resources I had to prove their innocence. I'm 32. I own a house. I have a good job. I have parents who stood by me. I have friends who never doubted me. I'm going to be fine. You're not confident enough to be married to an independent woman. Those were my wife's exact words 3 nights ago. And you know what? She was absolutely right. I'm Mark, 40, IT systems director for a healthcare company pulling in about $125K. I need to rethink what marriage even means. My wife Bella, 36, is a corporate communications manager making around $95K. We've been married 8 years, no kids by her choice, which I respected. The house we live in is mine, bought it 6 years before we got married when her credit wasn't good enough to qualify. Never thought that detail would matter. For the past 2 years, Bella's been really into this whole financial autonomy thing. I supported it completely. We've always had separate accounts. I've never controlled her money, never questioned her spending. She's my partner, not someone I need to manage. But lately, the conversation's shifted from partnership to something else entirely. Marriage is an outdated institution. Successful women threaten insecure men. She'd send me articles about female financial independence at least twice a week. I thought she was just finding her voice, getting more confident in her career. I was proud of her, supported her when she wanted to take that weekend seminar on executive presence. When she started spending more time at networking events and less time at home, I figured it was career building. I'm in it. I get that sometimes you have to put in the hours. Looking back, there were signs. She stopped asking about my day, stopped sharing much about hers. We used to cook dinner together most nights, talk about everything. That gradually became her eating out with colleagues while I grabbed something on my own. I told myself it was normal, people grow. Then came last Friday. Bella's company threw this big networking event at a hotel downtown. She'd been talking about it for weeks, important clients, her boss would be there, potential for promotion. She asked me to come as her +1. Of course I went. I wanted to support her. Everything seemed fine at first. She introduced me to her colleagues, we made small talk, the usual corporate party stuff. I was standing near the bar getting us drinks when I heard her voice carrying from a group about 15 feet away. She was talking to 3 coworkers, didn't realize I was in earshot. "Some men just can't handle women who don't need them," she said, laughing. The group laughed with her. One of them glanced my direction. Bella kept going anyways. "They want you to be grateful, you know, like your success is somehow their gift to you." I stood there holding 2 glasses of wine, watching my wife perform for her audience. She never looked my way. I set the drinks down and left the event. Texted her I wasn't feeling well, took an Uber home. She got back around midnight, half drunk and annoyed that I'd embarrassed her by leaving early. I tried to explain what I heard. She waved it off. "You're being oversensitive. It wasn't even about you." The next morning I brought it up again. Calmly. Said that publicly mocking your spouse, even indirectly, crosses a line. That's when she hit me with it. "This is exactly what I'm talking about, Mark. You're not confident enough to be married to an independent woman. You need me to stroke your ego to make you feel needed. But I don't need you financially. I don't need you practically. And if you can't handle that reality without feeling threatened, maybe you're not cut out for a modern marriage." I didn't argue, didn't defend myself. Just sat there processing what she'd actually said. After 8 years, she'd basically told me I'm obsolete in her life. That needing your partner emotionally, not just financially, makes you weak. I finally spoke. "You're right. I need to rethink what marriage even means." She looked satisfied, like she'd won the argument, went to take a shower. I sat at the kitchen table for another hour just thinking. I've spent the past 3 days being very quiet, very thoughtful. Bella thinks I'm finally getting it, that I'm coming around to her way of thinking. She's been almost cheerful, like a weight's been lifted. She has no idea what I'm actually rethinking. Update 1. Sorry for the delay, had a major system migration at work that ate up every spare minute. Things have moved faster than I expected. I did rethink what marriage means. Here's what I concluded. It's supposed to mean partnership, mutual support, actually wanting to be together, not just coexisting while building separate lives. If one person thinks the other is dead weight they're too enlightened to need, that's not marriage. That's roommates with legal paperwork. So I took Monday off work and went to see a divorce attorney, just a consultation to understand my options. The lawyer was this no-nonsense woman in her 50s, Rebecca Chen, came highly recommended from a coworker who'd been through it. She listened to the whole story without interrupting, then opened a legal pad and started making notes. What I learned was illuminating. The house, completely mine. Bought it 6 years before marriage, solely in my name. In our state, premarital property doesn't get divided. Bella would have no claim to it. She never contributed to mortgage payments, Rebecca asked. It was paid off before we got married, I said. I used a bonus and some savings. She moved in after we got engaged. Improvements to the property. I paid for everything. New HVAC last year, kitchen appliances 2 years ago. I can get receipts, Rebecca nodded. 8 years married, no kids, both employed with decent incomes, separate finances. Unless there's some factor I don't know about, you're looking at a clean split. She keeps her assets, you keep yours, no alimony. That's simple. In theory, she set down her pen. But it's rarely simple when one party thinks they're entitled to more than the law says. Has she ever claimed the house was joint property? I thought about it. She calls it our house, but so do I. It's where we live. But legally it's yours. That distinction matters. Rebecca leaned back. My advice, start documenting everything. Separate your finances completely if you haven't already. If you're serious about divorce, start making plans for what that looks like practically. Walking out of that office, I had this weird clarity. For 2 years, Bella's been building her identity around not needing me, posting on social media about female empowerment and independence, making little comments about traditional marriage expectations. I'd ignored it, thinking it was just her finding herself. But here's the thing I realized. She was building an exit narrative. Getting promoted soon, she told her friends. Finally outgrow him. Those company party comments weren't random philosophy, they were groundwork. If she's independent and I'm just the insecure husband holding her back, then leaving looks like growth, not failure. The question was, what does actual independence look like? I spent Tuesday and Wednesday setting something up. Called a property management company that handles house sharing arrangements. The guy I talked to, Mike, specialized in exactly this, homeowners who wanted to rent out extra space while still living there. He walked me through the process. Proper documentation, lease agreements, tenant rights spelled out clearly. Set fair market rent or below if you have a reason, but document why. Treat it like a real business arrangement. Mike helped me draft the paperwork Wednesday morning. The spare bedroom had been Bella's meditation room, a space with a yoga mat and crystals she'd used maybe twice. It took me about 3 hours to clear it out, set up furniture from storage, make it an actual guest room. Found my first tenant by Thursday morning. Bella's mother, Patricia, 68 years old, living on a fixed income after Bella's dad passed 4 years ago. She's been struggling, not destitute, but definitely stressed about money. Bella knows this but hasn't offered help. Mom needs to learn to budget, she said multiple times. I can't enable her dependence. I called Patricia Tuesday night. Told her I had a spare bedroom, completely furnished, private bathroom. Would she be interested in renting it? Below market rate, month-to-month lease, all legal and proper. She could save money, have company, and I'd appreciate having someone else in the house given Bella's travel schedule. She was hesitant at first, didn't want to impose. I told her it was a business arrangement, not charity. We signed the lease Wednesday evening. First month's rent, $400, about a third of market rate. All documented, all legal. Patricia moved in yesterday. Bella was supposed to be gone until today on a business trip, some Women in Leadership conference in Seattle, but her flight got moved up. She texted me around 4 p.m. Landing in an hour, can you pick me up? I was at work. Texted back, in a meeting, sorry, Uber home. She got home around 6:30. I was in my office on a call when I heard her voice downstairs. Then another voice, her mother's voice. Then Bella's voice again, louder, confused. I finished my call and went downstairs. Bella was standing in the kitchen, suitcase still by the door, staring at her mother who was unpacking groceries. Mark, Bella said very carefully, why is my mother in our house? She's renting the spare bedroom, I said. I converted the house to a legal house share arrangement. Patricia's my first tenant. We signed a lease Wednesday. Bella's face went through about 5 expressions in 3 seconds. You did what? Patricia looked uncomfortable. Honey, Mark offered me. I'm talking to my husband. Bella cut her off, turned back to me. You can't just rent out our house without asking me. It's my house, I said, simple fact. Premarital property. And I did ask you in a way. You've been very clear that you value independence and female empowerment. Your mother needed help. You weren't offering it because you don't believe in enabling dependence, but you also said women should support women. I'm just helping. The look on her face was something. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "This is insane," she finally said. "You're being vindictive." "I'm being independent," I corrected. "Making my own choices about my own property. Isn't that what you wanted? For both of us to be self-sufficient." She grabbed her phone and went upstairs. I could hear her pacing in our bedroom, then her voice getting louder, calling someone, probably one of her empowered woman friends. Patricia pulled me aside. "Mark, I don't want to cause problems in your marriage." "You're not," I told her. "The problems were already there." Bella didn't come back downstairs that night. This morning she left for work before I got up. No note, no text. Her lawyer called my office an hour ago. Apparently this means war. I'll update you guys once I know more about this. Update 2, this is getting surreal. I need to write this down before I start questioning reality. Bella lawyered up within 24 hours of finding her mother in the house. Her attorney sent a letter to my work email, aggressive, threatening, full of legal terms clearly meant to intimidate. Demanded I cease the illegal eviction of his client, meaning Bella, remove her mother from marital property, and vacate the premises myself pending divorce proceedings. My attorney's response was shorter. Basically, "Your client is not being evicted. The property owner is exercising legal rights to rent unused space. Ms. Patricia Williams has a valid lease and tenant rights. Your client's residence is not impacted." That back and forth went on for 3 days. Bella stayed in our bedroom, I slept in my office. Patricia tried to make herself invisible. The house felt like a Cold War bunker. Then we got to mediation. Court-ordered, fast-tracked because Bella's lawyer was pushing hard. We sat in a conference room yesterday, me, Bella, both lawyers, a mediator. Bella looked like she'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. Full business outfit, hair done, makeup perfect, her armor. She wouldn't make eye contact. The mediator opened with the standard speech about reaching agreement, not assigning blame. Her lawyer went aggressive. Went through a presentation about how I was manipulating marital assets and creating a hostile living environment. Claimed I was forcing Bella out of her own home. Brought up that Bella had lived there 8 years, contributed to household expenses, had every right to consider it her home regardless of the deed. She built a life in that house, the lawyer said. My client has been emotionally devastated by Mr. Harrison's calculated actions. I kept my face neutral. Let him talk. My lawyer just smiled. Set down 3 folders. Folder 1. House deed and documentation showing sole ownership, purchased 2018, 6 years before marriage. Appraisal from that time. Mortgage in my name alone, paid off in 2022, also before marriage. 0 marital property claim. Folder 2, Patricia's lease agreement. Fully legal, below market rent explained as family courtesy, tenant rights clearly established. Property manager's statement confirming everything meets local ordinances. Folder 3, this one was interesting. My lawyer pulled out printed emails. Your client has been quite active in correspondence with friends, he said. Read from one dated 6 months ago. Once I get this promotion, I'll finally outgrow him. Worst case, I walk away with half. Bella went pale. Her lawyer looked at her sharply. There are several others, my lawyer continued, discussing marital assets she believed she'd receive in divorce. Referring to her husband as financially useful until I don't need him, planning to leave once her career advancement made it viable. The mediator asked where these came from. Discovery, my lawyer explained. Bella's company email, which she'd used for personal correspondence, technically accessible in divorce proceedings when one party claims marital misconduct. Bella's lawyer called a recess, pulled her into the hallway. I could hear raised voices through the door. When they came back, Bella looked like she'd been crying. My client may have been frustrated in private communications, her lawyer said carefully. That doesn't change the fact that Mr. Harrison is creating an untenable living situation. My lawyer opened folder 4. I hadn't known there was a folder 4. Credit card statements. For cards I didn't know Bella had. She'd opened 3 new ones in the past year, all in her name only. Total balances, just over $40,000. Female empowerment retreats in Sedona, my lawyer read. Leadership coaching sessions at $500 per hour. A wealth consciousness intensive weekend in Napa Valley, $3,200. multiple charges to something called Phoenix Rising Women's Collective. He looked at Bella's lawyer. Your client has been spending significantly on what appears to be personal development seminars while telling her husband their career networking events. She's also been building debt he knew nothing about. The mediator asked Bella directly, "Is this accurate?" Bella's voice was barely audible. "Those were investments in myself." 40,000 in debt, the mediator repeated. "For seminars." "It's called personal growth," Bella said, louder now. "Not that my husband would understand. He's threatened by successful women, by women who want more than Ms. Harrison," the mediator interrupted. "Your husband isn't on trial here. We're trying to determine asset division." That shut her up. Bella's lawyer spent the next hour trying to salvage something. Maybe Bella contributed to house improvements. "No, I had receipts showing I paid for the new HVAC last year." Maybe she deserved compensation for emotional labor. The mediator actually laughed at that one. By 4 p.m., Bella's lawyer was recommending settlement. No house claim. No alimony, she makes too much and we've been married under 10 years. She'd get her personal property, her car, in her name, her retirement accounts separate from mine. I'd keep the house, my retirement, my car. We'd each handle our own debts. "What about my mother?" Bella asked suddenly. Her lawyer looked confused. "What about her? She can't stay in that house. It's humiliating." "Your mother is a legal tenant," my lawyer said. "She has rights. She can stay as long as she wants." Bella stared at me across the table. "You did this on purpose, to humiliate me." "I gave your mother a safe, affordable place to live," I said. "Something her own daughter refused to do. If that humiliates you, maybe ask yourself why." "We're signing final papers next week." Bella moved out yesterday, went to stay with one of her empowerment group friends, left most of her stuff, said she'd get it later. Patricia made dinner last night. First real meal I've had in weeks. We didn't talk about Bella much. Mostly just sat there eating pot roast, both of us processing this weird situation we're in. "I don't understand what happened to her," Patricia said finally. "She wasn't always like this." "I know," I said, and I meant it. The woman I married 8 years ago wouldn't have said those things at that party, wouldn't have written those emails. Somewhere along the way, she got convinced that independence meant not needing anyone for anything, and that needing people made you weak. The mediation resumes next week for final details. Bella's lawyer is pushing for a fast resolution. I think she wants this over with before more of Bella's financial decisions come to light. Phoenix Rising Women's Collective. I looked them up. It's an MLM scheme wrapped in empowerment language. They sell investment opportunities and business coaching to professional women. Bella's been to 4 of their retreats in 6 months. She wanted independence. What she got was a predatory organization that saw her insecurity and sold it back to her at $500 per hour. Final update. It's done. Signed the papers Thursday morning. Marriage officially over as of next week when the judge signs off. But something happened yesterday I need to tell you about. Bella showed up at the house around noon. No warning, just knocked on the door while I was working from home. Patricia was out at her book club. First time I'd seen Bella since mediation. She looked terrible. Not physically, she was dressed like always, hair done, makeup on, but something in her eyes, exhausted, defeated. "Can we talk?" she asked. I almost said no. But something in her voice stopped me. I let her in. We sat in the living room where we used to watch TV together, felt like visiting a museum of our life. "I got fired," she said. "I wasn't expecting that." "What happened?" "The empowerment group." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Phoenix Rising. Turns out when you spend half your work time in mindset coaching sessions and the other half recruiting coworkers, HR notices. They called it creating a hostile work environment and conducting unauthorized business on company time." "Jesus, Bella, there's more." She pulled out her phone, showed me text messages from women in her Phoenix Rising group. The gist: now that she was unemployed and couldn't recruit or pay for more intensives, they decided she wasn't aligned with the collective's energy anymore. Blocked from the group chat. The woman she'd called her soul sister for a year wouldn't return her calls. "I gave them $25,000, she whispered, over 18 months for retreats coaching their investment opportunities. There's nothing. No certification, no business plan, no network. It's all gone, and I have nothing to show for it except credit card debt and no job. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. The bigger part just felt sad. I'm not here for money, she said quickly. I know we're done. I know I destroyed this. I needed you to know that you were right about all of it. They sold me this story that needing anyone made me weak. That partnership was oppression. That the only way to be strong was to be completely self-sufficient. It was manipulation, I said. They found something you were worried about and convinced you it was a crisis. I humiliated you at that party. Her voice cracked. I humiliated myself. I spent 2 years pushing away the only person who actually gave a shit about me, and for what? So I could prove to a bunch of con artists that I was empowered enough to give them my money. She started crying. Real crying, not the angry tears from mediation. I got her tissues, made coffee. We sat there for an hour while she talked about how the group targeted her after she posted about a promotion on LinkedIn, how they love-bombed her, made her feel seen and special, how they slowly isolated her from anyone who questioned their methods, including me. Textbook cult tactics, I said. I know that now. She wiped her eyes. But knowing doesn't fix what I broke. We sat in silence for a while. Your mom's doing really well here, I said eventually. She's got a whole routine now. Book club Tuesdays, volunteers at the library Thursdays, made friends with the neighbor 2 doors down. Last week she baked cookies for half the street. Bella smiled, sad. She always was better at actual community than I ever was. All my women supporting women talk, and I couldn't even help my own mother. She's welcome to stay as long as she wants, I said. Just so you know, this wasn't about punishing you through her. I know, she stood up. I should go. I'm staying with my cousin while I figure out the job situation. I'll get the rest of my stuff next week if that's okay. Of course. She got to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, you were confident enough to be married to an independent woman. I was just too insecure to be one. Real independence isn't about not needing anyone. It's about choosing to be with someone when you don't have to be. I get that now. Too late, but I get it. After she left, I sat there thinking about that. She's right, in a way. Marriage should be about choosing each other every day, not needing each other like a crutch. But choosing requires seeing value in partnership beyond what the other person can do for you. Patricia got home around 4, took one look at my face and asked what happened. I told her everything. She sighed. I tried to warn her about that group. She shook her head. She told me I didn't understand modern women, that I was trapped in old thinking. Did you know she got fired? She called me this morning. That's why I gave you 2 privacy. Patricia started pulling things out for dinner. She asked if she could stay here while she gets back on her feet. What did you tell her? That she needs to ask you, it's your house. She paused. What would you say? Honest answer. I'd say no, I admitted. She needs to rebuild her life without depending on the safety net she spent 2 years telling me was oppressive. Patricia nodded. That's what I told her you'd say, and I told her you'd be right. The divorce finalizes next week. I've got the house, my retirement, my job, and, weirdly, a better relationship with my ex-mother-in-law than I ever had with my ex-wife. Patricia's talking about planting a garden in the backyard this spring. I told her to go for it. Bella wanted independence without responsibility. What she learned was that independence without decency is just loneliness. She thought not needing anyone made her strong. Turns out, admitting you need people and choosing them anyway, that's actual strength. I'm not dating, not thinking about that yet. Just working, living with my tenant who makes incredible pot roast, and figuring out what life looks like when you stop trying to be enough for someone who's decided nobody ever will be. Maybe that's my version of independence, not proving I don't need anyone, just knowing I'm worth choosing and I don't have to convince anyone of it. The papers get signed next Thursday. Then it's official. 8 years gone, but honestly, I'm okay. Maybe for the first time in 2 years, I'm actually okay.